Welcome to the course. This first video and associated slides will provide a brief introduction to what we'll be focusing on this semester, evaluation. Topics covered include the reasons for and purposes of evaluation, brief history of evaluation, basic terminology, standards of acceptability in evaluation, frameworks, distinguishing evaluation from research, and systems thinking in the context of evaluating programs. These slides will also be available as a standalone PowerPoint file on Blackboard, so if you need to go back to review some of the text on the slides, you'll have the ability to do that. In very basic terms, program evaluation is about comparing the processes or outcomes of a program to some predetermined set of standards. In other words, evaluation is very much about accountability. Other uses of evaluation include quality assurance and quality improvement. We will spend significant parts of the course discussing how formative or evaluation that focuses on quality improvement can be particularly important in research administration and compliance programs. Listed here, you'll see some basic purposes of evaluation. It's important to note that evaluators use many approaches when designing evaluation plans. Some evaluations are very basic, focusing on one approach, while other evaluations can be quite complex, exploring processes and outcomes at many different levels. Surprisingly, the history of modern formal evaluation is quite brief. Various political and historical events and movements have shaped our current approach to evaluation, with the field receiving scientific appreciation or acknowledgement only within the past 40 years or so. Surprising, right? Nonetheless, evaluation is here to stay. Regardless of discipline, many professional organizations, accrediting bodies, etc., require formal evaluation plans for programming focusing on one or more of these approaches. Think about a time in your professional career in which you or your colleagues or programs may have been held accountable in one or more of these areas. As mentioned previously, evaluation is largely about comparing processes or outcomes to some predetermined set of criteria. The official definition of evaluation is the process of determining the value or worth of a program or policy, or any of its components, based on predetermined criteria or standards of acceptability identified by stakeholders. The criteria by which the value or worth is compared are called standards of acceptability. Depending on a program's construction, standards of acceptability can include a multiple array of measures. Several are listed here. Again, you can go back and download the standalone PowerPoint file to review the text on these slides. The Joint Committee for Standards on Educational Evaluation, formed in 1975, is an organization dedicated to the professional practice of evaluation. They developed 4 standards by which evaluations themselves could be evaluated: utility, feasibility, propriety, and accuracy. Utility answers the question, will the evaluation serve the information needs of its consumers or its stakeholders? In other words, will stakeholders be the primary beneficiaries of the evaluation's findings? Feasibility answers the question, will the evaluation be realistic, prudent, diplomatic, and frugal? In other words, will the evaluation make the best use of its resources? Propriety answers the question, will the evaluation be conducted legally, ethically, and with due regard for the welfare of those involved in the evaluation, as well as those affected by its results? In other words, does the evaluation treat all involved in a good, nice, and fair way? And accuracy answers the question, will the evaluation reveal and convey technically adequate information about the features that determine worth or merit of the program or policy being evaluated? In other words, will the results, or for the results to be meaningful, the evaluation must be conducted with an appropriate level of expertise and preciseness. When combined, these standards provide an overall assessment of how we might be able to assess an evaluation at a meta level, for example, meta-evaluation. We will discuss this later in the semester, but think of it as basically evaluating an evaluation. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have done a wonderful job applying these standards to a framework or process for conducting formal evaluations. This model or framework emphasizes the iterative nature of evaluation. As you can see, we begin with the engagement of stakeholders, and as we move through the steps of the evaluation, our findings eventually make their way back to the stakeholders. As you can see, the standards are nestled in the middle of this framework, constantly guiding the process step by step. As we will discuss regularly over the course of the semester, evaluation makes use of the same approaches, methods, and measures that we use in social and behavioral research. However, there is one big difference between the two: application for the purposes of quality assurance and quality improvement. For example, in the context of a randomized controlled trial, it would be futile to change our research design in the middle of implementing the study. That would adversely affect our findings and impact external validity. Conversely, negative findings in the process of evaluation may prompt immediate change in programming so as to fix programmatic problems. To ignore these findings may lead to ethical and legal repercussions. Here are some ways to think about how evaluation differs from research. While we've talked about standards for effective evaluation, we've not discussed the characteristics of an effective evaluator. Those who abide by the standards may also exhibit these characteristics. The only way to fully understand why a complex problem occurs and persists is to understand pieces in relation to the whole. This lends itself well to evaluation, because much of evaluation is about process and not necessarily about outcome. Systems thinking can help us dissect programmatic parts and explore their relations to expected or unexpected outcomes. Most problems are complex, and there are often no simple explanations or a silver bullet to improve them. Systematic and rigorous evaluation can help explain the complexity of those problems in hopes of developing solutions to alleviating or solving these problems entirely. That concludes this first set of slides and slideshow. Again, I want to remind you that these slides will also be available as a standalone PowerPoint file on Blackboard, so if you need to go back to review some of the text on the slides, you'll have the ability to do that. Thank you.